All right, welcome to today's explainer. We're taking a really deep dive into something that literally impacts every single person stepping onto an industrial site, a factory floor, or a construction zone. We're talking about safety culture. But look, we are not talking about the corporate buzzword version of it today. The sources we're analyzing break down what safety culture actually means far beyond the paperwork, the binders, and the signed permits. Let's get grounded and look at the actual reality of keeping people alive out there.
So I want you to think about this question. What happens when nobody is looking? I mean, think about the gritty reality of your site versus those glossy, perfect posters hanging up in the break room. If a worker spots a hazard, but the supervisor is completely swamped trying to hit a tight production target, what do they actually do? Do they speak up, or do they kind of just look away? We really need to shatter this illusion that rules and policies alone are going to save lives. Because the truth is, a real safety culture is exactly what happens when the safety manager is nowhere in sight.
Here's how we're breaking it down today. We'll kick things off with the safety culture illusion, move right into top-down structure, and then see where you land on the Hudson maturity ladder. After that, we'll get into the bottom-up lifeblood, see how to build a closed-loop system, and finish off with a solid 90-day action plan.
Okay, let's jump right into part one, the safety culture illusion.
Why do massive companies drop millions of dollars on safety, yet still have catastrophic accidents? Well, the sources point to a fundamental misunderstanding of human psychology at work. This maps perfectly to psychologist Edgar Shane's 3 levels of culture. It's kind of like a cross-section of a company's brain. At the very top, you've got artifacts. These are the visible things, right? The safety stands, the hard hats, the signed logbooks. Below that, you have declared values, those big mission statements that proudly say, safety is our #1 priority. Companies pour so much money into these top 2 levels. But you've got to look at that bottom row. Basic assumptions. This is the hidden stuff. It's what people actually believe deep down in their gut. Things like, you'll be punished if you speak up, or, look, we all know the production plan matters more than my safety. If a company totally ignores these hidden assumptions, I guarantee you, those posters on the wall mean absolutely nothing. The toxic silence is still running the show.
The core dynamic we're exploring today really comes down to a two-way street. Safety culture is built from the top down. Leadership has to provide the structure, the resources, and the clear signals that safety actually matters more than speed. But, and this is absolutely crucial, it lives from the bottom up. It survives entirely on psychological safety, on workers generating signals, reporting near misses, and actually stopping dangerous work. If you're only pushing down from the top and you're not listening to the bottom, the whole system just collapses.
Which brings us to part 2, top-down structure. Let's talk about leadership for a second. Without real, boots-on-the-ground commitment from the executive suite, no amount of morning toolbox talks is going to save your culture. Why? Because workers always look up to see what truly matters to the boss. Action speaks so much louder than policies. What actually works? A director personally walking the site and having a real conversation. It's safety budgets that don't miraculously vanish the second the company hits a financial rough patch. Now, look at what destroys it. An executive walking the factory floor without proper PPE? That instantly tells every single worker that the rules are completely fake. Or investigating incidents just so you can find a quick scapegoat to fire, that literally just trains your team to hide their mistakes next time.
And that leads us to a pretty devastating truth highlighted in the source material, the rule of the last mile. The CEO can sit in a boardroom and write a world-class, bulletproof safety mandate. But if the line manager, the foreman, or the supervisor on the floor doesn't talk about safety every single day, that policy is dead on arrival. Middle management is the bridge. Safety culture lives or dies based entirely on what your frontline supervisors tolerate.
All right, part 3, the Hudson maturity ladder.
So knowing all this, how do we actually measure where an organization stands? The Hudson maturity model is an incredible diagnostic tool for your company's mindset. Let's walk up this ladder together. At the very bottom, level 1, you have pathological. The mindset here is basically who's going to find out. Safety is viewed as a total nuisance, and hiding incidents is just business as usual. Level 2 is reactive, meaning we only act after someone actually gets hurt. Level 3 is calculative. Okay, so now you have systems and risk assessments, but let's be real, it's treated as a bureaucratic chore, just ticking boxes. Level 4, proactive, is the big turning point. This is where workers actively report near misses, and risks are caught before the ambulance is called. And finally, level 5, generative. Safety is just who we are. It's baked into every single business decision. Moving up this ladder isn't about buying a new training program, you guys. It's entirely about changing how management reacts to bad news.
So,
I want you to really think about this for a second. Honestly, what level is your company on right now? If a massive near miss happened on your shift today, would it be quietly buried, or would it be reported, analyzed, and praised? You have to be truthful with yourself here, because acknowledging exactly where you are is the only way to build the trust you need for the next step.
And that takes us to part 4, the bottom-up lifeblood. We've talked about the leadership structure, but without the courage of the worker on the ground, the whole system is flying blind. And make no mistake, it takes profound courage for a worker to stop a production line and say, hey, this isn't safe. The data here is a massive wake-up call, 600 plus. According to Bird's famous safety pyramid, for every single fatal accident, there are over 600 near misses. 600 times where a tragedy was avoided by sheer dumb luck. So here's the terrifying truth. If nobody in your organization is reporting near misses, it is absolutely not because they aren't happening. It's because your people are hiding them from you. And for sure, that is the most dangerous signal of all.
To get those vital reports, you need what's called psychological safety. Now, that doesn't mean being comfortable. It means having the confidence to speak up. How do you know if you actually have it? Well, people can ask so-called stupid safety questions without being laughed out of the room. When things go wrong, the discussion immediately focuses on what happened to the system, not whose head is going to roll. It means a brand new rookie feels empowered enough to tell a 20-year veteran to put their safety glasses back on. And most importantly, anyone can say, stop, this looks dangerous, and management actually thanks them for it. A super common tool companies use to build this is behavior-based safety, or BBS. But as the sources point out, it gets weaponized all the time. Done right, BBS is about observation, dialogue, and positively reinforcing safe habits. It's using real data to fix broken systems. But the typical failure? When management uses it as a surveillance tool. You know, walking around just to hand out fines and focus only on catching violations. Doing that instantly forces your workers right back into silence.
Let's look at part 5, the closed-loop system. When you finally get that top-down commitment and bottom-up courage working together, you get the holy grail of safety, the closed-loop system. This is exactly what a Level 5 generative culture looks like in action. Step 1. A worker spots a hazard and actually reports the near miss without an ounce of fear. Step 2. The line manager doesn't sweep it under the rug, they escalate it straight up to health and safety. Step 3. Leadership takes that data, analyzes the root cause, and actually changes the broken procedure. And Step 4. This is the make-or-break moment. The loop closes. The worker gets direct, face-to-face feedback. Hey, we heard you, and here's exactly what we fixed. Because listen, if even one of those links breaks, if leadership takes the data but never bothers to report back to the floor, those workers will realize their voice doesn't actually matter, and they'll just stop speaking up.
Bringing us to our final section, your 90-day action plan.
We have covered a lot of ground today, but look, knowledge without implementation is totally useless. The source material lays out clear marching orders for you this week. Find your role and commit to it. If you're top management, get out of your office, walk the site, and have a real unscripted conversation about risks with the front line. Health and safety specialists, sit down with your line managers and honestly diagnose your Hudson level. Line managers, your job is simple but so powerful. Publicly thanked just one person this week for bringing you a hazard. And to the workers on the floor, I challenge you to speak out loud about that one risk you walk past every single day but have just kept quiet about.
I want to leave you with a really profound thought directly from our sources today. Silence is also a choice. Safety culture isn't a dusty manual sitting on a shelf. It's built on thousands of tiny, daily decisions made by every single person on that site. It's the decision to step in or the decision to look away. When you choose to stay silent about a hazard, you are making a conscious choice that could literally cost a colleague their life.
So, here is my final challenge to you. What will you do today? Before this shift ends, before you clock out and go home to your families, how are you going to choose to act when nobody is looking? Take responsibility for the lives around you. Speak up about danger. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and please stay safe out there.